Hello, officiants all around the world and celebrants. Celebrants are welcome too. This is the conundrum of our industry. We're called officiants, we're called celebrants. They're interchangeable. Welcome to the show where there is music playing, or oh, I see what's happening. I have my phone here where the show is also being broadcast. and the reason I did that was because there are comments that I can see on YouTube before I logged in on my Restream software. And I wanted to say hello to the first people here. Happy New Year. Sarah, you were the first to tag the wall here in 2026. And here we are live once again, 2026, another year of weddings. And this is a live weekly wedding prep. So basically, that is where we are kicking it here, talking about weddings that just happened for you or weddings that are coming up for you. And I've said it can be as granular as you like. You can put things in the chat where you say, hey, how does this wording sound? We can talk about ceremony elements. We can talk about strategies. We can talk about business. We do talk about it all here. I typically come and have today with a few topics ready to talk about that are based on questions that I've gotten recently. I get questions on email. I get questions on from our members. I get questions from non-members. I get questions on YouTube, on comments on my videos. And so I take kind of all those things together. Typically, I get back to people, although I did get a great question today from Sabrina, and I said, I'm gonna answer that tomorrow. And a lot of you, if you're on my list, you get the email giving you the heads up that we are going live today. And that's when I ask you, please send me your questions. I would love to answer them on the show. And a lot of you do that, and I appreciate that. However, also, I want to answer any questions you have right here in the chat as well. And so please get those ready. That is a huge part of why we are here. I'll say it again, as I do most shows, but especially off the top of 2026 here. This is about the community that we are together on Thursdays at noon Eastern. A lot of it is me talking, but most of it, I would say, most of the value you're getting is the incredible community in the chat. Many of you are Unboring Wedding members. And again, if you want to know how to do that, unboringweddingacademy.com is the place where you can purchase the course, the ceremony course. Learn that style and system. And when you purchase, you are a member. We welcome you in. We have a private members only Facebook group as well. You get a ceremony on Officiantly, the platform that we have built over the last year or so. And there's another huge update coming up. You might keep thinking, how is it that Mark keeps updating Officiantly? Hey, there's no end to the amount of tweaking, the amount of features that we can add for a platform that accommodates and creates your wedding ceremony. What I want for you is that you can officiate more weddings for more couples. That is our bottleneck. That is our limitation, is time. When you're an amazing unboring officiant or celebrant, especially if you've taken the course and you know every time you officiate, there are 100 or 200 guests in the seats. There are vendors who are extremely influential. They watch you conduct and perform your couple's dream ceremony, tell their love story. You hold the room, you engage with the guests. That is everything that I teach in the course. And thereafter, there's going to be some people in those seats that say, oh my gosh, that was the best ceremony we have ever seen. We're getting married, or our daughter's getting married, or our cousin's getting married, or the wedding planner who's there will say, oh my gosh, I want you to officiate for my couples. If there's a venue owner there, they might say, hey, can you become our exclusive vendor, et cetera, et cetera. This is the snowball that happens, the snowball of great things that happens when you officiate this way. But of course, you only have a limited amount of time. And that was the wall that I hit when I started officiating and getting that kind of traction. It takes time to meet with your couple properly, write a script properly, write their story properly, etc. So Officiantly handles so many of those things with a click. One click to send the script to the couple, one click to send the questionnaire. The answers are all compiled. You know this if you use Officiantly. Check it out at officiant.ly. It is about saving time. I am so thankful that we are here together, and you got through the holidays. I hope you had a wonderful time. If you're wondering, Mark, did you get anything for Christmas? Of course I did. I got another color of long sleeve T-shirt. That's my family knows me. I'm just a merino wool 365 days of the year guy. Solid colors. I don't like patterns or that kind of thing. And my family just knew what to buy. Let's get the husband, let's get the daddy another color of shirts. So that's right. This one's green. I don't know if you can tell. You've never seen it before. I wore my new Christmas duds the very first day that we're back live here in 2026. I want to say, Sarah, you were here first, but Laura, good to see you here. Officiant in love from Humble, Texas, 75 degrees. I got my phone here and I'm watching myself stream, which is weird. I'm going to close this out. But when you get here early, when you get to the YouTube channel earlier than I log in, your comments are on YouTube, but not on my streaming software. So that's why I'm on here. And Retta, it's awesome to see you here. I'm so thrilled. Your name actually came up in our members only office hours. Carol was talking about you and how you do business. And of course, you and I met at Wedding MBA. You were there in person, not this past year, but the year before. And I'm just thrilled you're here. Good to see you. You broke your ankle at the end of your busy fall season. Oh my gosh. You had friends who were there to step in. That's amazing because I just talked about that in episode 10. I talked about networking with vendors. In fact, my short tomorrow is going to be every day I release a short on all platforms, or a reel, depending on what the platform is. And it'll be a little snippet about what I was talking about in episode 10, where yes, fellow officiant, fellow celebrant, you need to network with planners, with venue coordinators, with photographers. Photographers are the best, amazing referrers. But don't forget officiants. We value community over competition as officiants. And I talked about how in episode 10, how even if somebody doesn't exactly have your style or system, I get asked that, Mark, who does it exactly like you? Dang it, you're booked. We wanted you, but does anybody who does it quite like you? And I got to say, and because New Brunswick is very tight-lidded in the sense that most of Canada's, most provinces, not just anyone can officiate. It has to be a minister, or it has to be a judiciary, or it has to be a lawyer. So not a lot of people do this, and especially not a lot of people do it the way, the style, the method of the Unboring Way. And so it is not easy for me to refer to somebody else who does it like this. However, what matters is knowing, having a network of officiants and celebrants around you who can step in if you're sick, right? And who you can refer to when you're booked. But ultimately, what's most important to me is knowing that the couple is in great hands with that officiant. So even if you say they're a little bit different than myself, contact them, but you will be in great hands. And that, I'd say, is most important heading into 2026. We're going to talk a bit about business here today as time allows. I want to share with you something from the wedding report. Knowledge is power, and there's data about how weddings have shifted and what couples are doing in 2026. But ultimately, it's about being amazing with your customer service, replying with emails, being their advocate, how to talk to them in the Chem check or the vibe check when you're booking them. And so I'm excited to talk about some strategies around that today. And so you're going to do that, of course, as an officiant, but you want to make sure that you find some officiants around you or celebrants who you know are amazing at customer service. So good to see you, Retta. I'm so glad you are here, and hopefully you are healing up by now. Although, man, I don't know, an ankle can be a real mess. Hopefully you're up and about. Hello, Sabrina. Good to see you. San Antonio, overcast, high today of 81 degrees. It is 0 here in New Brunswick, 32, I guess. and that is a relief for us because it was like minus 20 last week, and I was running, and I do 5K every morning no matter what the weather, and that is like, it hurts. The outside hurts, and thankfully it doesn't hurt today. So we're getting a bit of a break here in New Brunswick. Good to see you, Mitt. You're back in the saddle. Hopefully you're well rested, getting ready for your next one. Sabrina says your next ceremony is not until mid-March right now. Anyway, that's great. I did say let us know when your next ceremony is, so thank you for that. Sabrina said 2 other officiants and I here in San Antonio had lunch and got to know each other a bit for that very reason. Hey, I just ranted about this and you said that 1 minute into the show. So that's amazing. You want to make officiant friends. I know Sabrina was talking about what Retta said there. That's super important. And I've really gone into detail here about pricing structures and when you have to cancel on couples, reimbursing them fully. If the other stand-in officiant is going to handle everything completely, or if you pass along your ceremony, maybe you keep the retainer because you've done a lot of the work, but then you either pay the officiants, the stand-in officiant, the replacement officiant directly, or you leave it to the couple and make sure you don't collect the second half. And so there's all that kind of stuff to consider, but ultimately you don't want to leave a couple in a lurch. You don't want to leave them hanging. And if you've done some work creating the ceremony, it's very easy to just flip that over to somebody who is standing in. But there are things to consider. Jim, the new guy from Montana, good to see you. Oh yeah, Jim, it's so good to see you here. I believe you came in as a member. I shot your bonjoro, and because Montana's ringing a bell. I remember saying, I love Montana. I had the pleasure of teaching notaries how to officiate weddings few years ago, 3 years ago. Went to Helena, climbed the hill, didn't get to Bozeman, unfortunately. Watched Yellowstone, of course, and I don't know. I wonder what Montanans think about Yellowstone and being represented that way. Canada has lots of stereotypes too, but good to see you, Jim. Thanks for being here. Anita's here. Good to see you from Tennessee. And hello for JP from Albuquerque. And Terry's here from Ottawa. Okay. What does your vibe check look like? Terry says. So I teach exactly how to do this in the pro course. So thank you for that excellent question. I'm going to get to a couple of questions next about what to do when a couple asks you about specific religious rites. I want to cover that. And then I had that really great question about, well, I'm going to show you in the wedding report how little officiants charge on the chart of vendors. And how do we compete with that when we ask for way more money than what is average? It's a bit startling when you see how little officiants charge and you say, how can I compete with that? Don't worry. I've been dealing with that for years and years. Right out of the gate, I said, there's no way I am going to charge that little. And in fact, part of my story is working for Young, Hip and Married, the officiating company in Toronto. They charged an exorbitant, way more than was average as well. And they have done quite well, etc. So do not be freaked out by how little officiants are charging when it comes to the average. I want to talk about that. And you're here. Good to see you. Next ceremony, end of the month, and a signing on 2/8/26. That's interesting. I was going to say it later, but I'll say it now. I have, and it's because of what I'm seeing in the wedding report. I am actually adding just like a sign and go, which I have never, ever, ever done. And we talked a bit about this on members only office hours on Tuesday on Zoom. So it's not like this office hours. We actually see each other's faces. We talk. It's a bit chaotic and amazing in its friendly disorderliness and a lot of fun. So far, we've managed to not talk all over each other or that kind of thing. But a group of us get on Zoom, and it's a lot of fun. And we did talk about some of the strategies around not like making sure you're not going to be booked on a time for a elopement or a signing on a time where you might book a huge wedding, right? So let's just say you're not going to want to book a signing at Dunkin' Donuts or something at 4 o'clock on a Saturday. a month and a half from now, because you might have a couple, you will likely have a couple reach out to you to officiate a full-blown ceremony at that time. But because of the barbell effect happening in the wedding industry right now, I'll explain what that is when we open up the wedding report. You might want to start appealing to higher end and lower end. The middle is getting a bit lost. More on that later. Oh, you got one on the 30th too. And love to see that you're busy. That's fantastic. My vibe check, or my chem check, as I call it in the pro course, I lay out a full training on this. So this would definitely be a truncated version of exactly what I teach in there. But essentially, right off the bat, you meet with the couple, whether it's in person or video. I used to refuse to do it on video, but post COVID, we are more open to video. That's just a fact. And so a lot of my couples now, I just meet them on video. I insist on meeting them before I take any money from them when it comes to the ceremony, because I'm going to be working with them. And if we want all the kind of vibes that you're seeing in these photos, that's what I tell couples in the email. I want to meet you because I want to click, and I want to meet your expectations. It is the couple's ceremony. So I want to make sure we understand what each other wants and what each other needs. That's two-way. I need a certain amount of homework. They need a certain style of ceremony. We want to meet in the middle. So I just meet with the couple. First few minutes are getting, hey, how are you doing, et cetera, et cetera. But the first question I ask, and really is a roadmap that I lay out in the full pro course, unboringweddingacademy.com/pro. If you want to take it by the horns here in 2026, learn the marketing, learn copywriting, learn strategies like this, is I basically get them talking about their wedding. I say, tell me about your day. And, it's one of those things where, somebody really appreciates when they get to talk to them, talk about themselves. It is kind of a first date when you're with the couple. And if you're on a first date, although I haven't been on one in 25 plus years, I just celebrated my 20th wedding anniversary with my wife on the 31st of December, 2025. So it's been 20 years, long time since I've been on a first date. But I remember that you want to get the person talking about themselves. So you want to first, you want the couple to start being comfortable and feeling heard. That's huge. And you also want to kind of gather data about their day, their vision. So you're accomplishing both of those things at the same time when you say, tell me about your day, especially when they tell you about their venue. Typically, that's where I like to start. Where is it? They'll say the venue. In my intake form with the couple, I ask for the venue ahead of time. So typically I know that. And I say, so you're getting married at Dominion Hill. That's amazing. The staff there are incredible. Is it on the lawn? Is it in the barn? Where is it? You kind of demonstrate a bit of knowledge around the venue. And here's the thing, even if you've never been to the venue to officiate before, do some research. If they came to you through your inquiry form, it is a good idea, like I say, to ask for the venue on the inquiry form and then do a little research about the venue before you have the conversation. A lot of venues will have a website. They will describe weddings. I'm going to flip over to my website here. I was going to bring this up for other reasons later on, but I want to show you. Inquire about your date here. I've talked about how every website needs to have a goal. Every page of a website needs to have a goal. And clearly mine is about getting to the inquire about your date. The website service that I provide is the same way. Every single page of that template for officiants that we provide through Unboring Wedding, $350 a year, is inquire. We want to get visitors to that last page. But here's what my inquiry page looks like. Name, bride or groom, phone. Can I text you? What's your email? Partner's details, name, bride or groom, fiance's email. Tell me about your day. So this is the crucial information we need to know is the wedding date, the time. You need to know this stuff so that you can make an informed decision about whether you're available. So date and time. Is your start time flexible? So if I've got maybe you take 2 bookings on a day, or maybe you take 2 per weekend, and they say our wedding is going to be Saturday at 5:00 and it is non-negotiable. We can't move our time. Well, then, if you've got a wedding on the Sunday and you include rehearsals, before you would say you're available, I might reach out to that couple and say, hey, I'm going to be available for your rehearsal earlier in the afternoon or later in the evening, maybe 7. That's the kind of stuff you need to know to make decisions around the day, but also sometimes your whole weekend around coordinating the itinerary of how you're going to get to and from certain ceremonies. So that's why I asked the is your start time flexible question. Wedding city, of course, you need to know that. Wedding venue, this is really important. So that's why I say, and these are required. You see the little star here. They cannot get through this inquiry page unless they answer these questions. And then here I have a drop down. Which of my services are you inquiring about? And what I'm doing here is I want them to choose the service and see the price. That is huge to me. I don't want them to, oh my gosh, what? When they meet with me, we didn't know you were $999, or, we didn't know $11.99 to go to St. John or Fredericton. I want them to know that. And so I want them to see the price. Chances are they saw it because it's clear on my other pages. But here, even when they've made it this far, I want them to see the price. How'd you hear about Unboring Wedding? This is amazing research. And then in terms of your marketing, like how are people finding you? Is it Google? Is it a specific vendor? And I just love getting the data from this. They'll say, oh, the Kate at the Algonquin referred you, or you're on the preferred vendor list at the Drew Haven, or sometimes you might learn like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. So that's huge, whether it's Google or ChatGPT or a friend, or you officiated my sister's wedding. So make sure you include that in your inquiry form. And we do for the website template and service we provide. And then comments or questions. And this is their chance to just kind of say anything, and most couples usually take advantage of this and say, hey there, we were hoping for this, we heard great things about you, etc. We really hope you're available. So that is what it looks like. And I'm still answering your question, believe it or not, about what does the vibe check look like, because that's what I'm saying. You go in with that information, with that knowledge about their venue and their start time. And that's where you get started with them. I love the Drew Haven. It's amazing. Oh, Tina and Sean there are incredible. And you're leaning into their day and asking about exactly where in the building. And like I say, if you've never officiated there, that's okay. You can learn a lot from the website, typically, of a venue, just from their, hey, here's our wedding site. You say, what are you thinking? Where are you thinking of getting married? What made you choose that place? Get them talking about their venue, their guest count, whether it's going to be a big party. You're just shooting the breeze. You're not planning the ceremony. The planning of the ceremony comes after they've paid you the retainer and you're booked, whether that's like, a month away or whether it's a year away. I wouldn't recommend collapsing these two things. You do this conversation, you find out if you're a fit, you accept payment, and then you move forward. It might be like, hey, see you in 3 days. Let's do this again in person or video. But that is really important, to accept payment and then move forward. So it's that part. Then I typically, part 2 of the Chem check is to say, do you have any questions for me? I say I'm open to any questions, but also, and I'm a bit proactive here, I also have a spiel. I joke about it because, hey, it's got to be an elephant in the room. I say I've officiated like 500 weddings, 1,000 weddings, whatever it is. I've just booked so many couples. I have a spiel. It's a really well-honed spiel about the process. I tell them what I really want to do is tell you what it's like to work with me from A to Z. How do we get from, yes, Mark, we want you to be our officiant. Fine, great. What happens after you say yes to me? And the wedding day, you're walking down the aisle. That's what I say. How do we get from there to there? Typically, they want to hear that process. So I lay out the whole process. And I'm not going to go through that here because that's kind of the time-consuming part. But go through your whole 30-some step process, whatever it is. I talk about how you start with the traditional ceremony, but they can add whatever they want. And then, of course, I'm going to write the ceremony. I'm going to send it to them through Officiantly and tell them the whole process. I'm going to send an email to your friends and family. Of course, you can edit your whatever your process is. Tell them your process. And if you use Officiantly, you know what that process is. It's 9 very distinct screens that you go through. I'm going to send you a question. I'm going to send your friends, family a question, and they're going to write your story. Then I'm going to ask for payment here. Then I'm going to show up at the rehearsal, tell them when payments are due, all that stuff. So think about your A to Z process. Have it ready to share with them. When it's done, you say, and so after that, do you have any questions? And if they say no, then the call to action is, I always say, so, okay, wonderful. Have you made a decision, or would you like to leave this meeting and talk about it a little bit? And I'd say 50-50 in terms of couples right there saying, no, they look at each other. We want you to be our officiant. That sounds amazing. Boom, fist pound, even if it's virtual. And then I send them the link to pay through my website with their credit card. So again, you're going to talk about how they can pay you there and when they're going to pay you. You covered that in the process, and you're open to any questions. And then, but half of them, like I say, want to discuss briefly and then get back to me. And then typically, maybe the next day they will say, yeah, we talked about it and we really, really want you to be our officiant. Also, though, if they do not get back to me by that night or the next morning, I typically send an email saying, hey, I loved meeting with you. Here's a sample script. And it's not a prescription of what your ceremony will be. It's just talking about it's basically an example of what can be. Because after you've talked to them about all the options, the customization of the ceremony, how you're going to do the workshop and all that stuff, they got it. They got that their ceremony is going to be really customizable. But you just want to reiterate that when you send them a script and say, hey, your ceremony can look something like this. I love to include the story. And I get a lot of replies from couples saying, oh my gosh, we just read this story and we laughed and we cried and we're just reading it. We don't even know this couple, but that's the experience we want. So share your best ceremony, a ceremony you're really proud of, as a follow-up with your couple. So that's what the vibe check or chem check looks like. Thank you for that question. You're already saying, yeah, thank you, Mark. That's great. I'm begging for mercy. Good to see you, Hannah, from New Zealand. Hey, we are covering every corner of the globe here now. I absolutely love it. Scott is here. Hello, fellow wedding officiants. Just sticking my head in the door to say hi and then dipping out. Okay, so you're maybe gone already, but thrilled you're here. And Scott, you were at the live members only Zoom office hours. We actually talked about how busy Scott was, and as an adjunct prof, but someone who is also parlaying that into wedding officiating, kind of a side hustle. And Scott, good to see you here. We know you are busy and you are experiencing really good things with your growing wedding officiant business, but trying to keep plates in the air. All right. Do you have them sign an agreement? Oh yeah, I always have them sign an agreement. Absolutely. Do not ever exchange money with a couple without signing an agreement. So that is part of the spiel, the process presentation that I make to them. Is basically, I say, once you say yes, Mark, I will send you a link where you can pay with your credit card online, and you will see that there is an agreement to sign right there on the page. I'm just thinking, can I quickly? It's not a public page on my website, but can I quickly navigate there if I just remember the direct URL? I don't know if I can. It's not going to. I would love to show you my direct booking page. But I don't think it's easy for me to get to. What I have is a web. It's kind of an applet. It looks like the form that you just saw here. And I bet you I can go in the back end. And it makes it really easy for them. I have it embedded, right? So your delivery method in terms of the contract is going to be different depending on what you use. But I use, I can probably do this right here. Booking payment St. Andrews. Yeah. The URL is embedded to these emails that I send out. And so it's booking payment St. Andrews. There we go. So this is it. This is what I send couples. I'll just bring it up on the screen here by way of answering your questions. So now, after they've said, yes, Mark, we want to book you. You see here at the top, I have let's get serious, booking payment. I ask them to, on this form, put in all the relevant information again, date, time, venue, because this is really important. Now we're doing a contract. Who's taking your pictures? I love to connect with the photographer ahead of the wedding. credit card right here. They just enter their credit card and pay through. This is Gravity Forms on WordPress. And you can see right here, I call it our Unboring Wedding Agreement. And I do have a little TLDR. I'm sure that would make a lawyer absolutely pass out, want to throw themselves out of a window. But I do get a lot of couples saying, I love the TLDR. Too long, didn't read. So every section has that little summary. But I have a description of my services, the schedule, how changes work, fees and the retainer with the pricing, the details, cancellation and refunds, how that works, satisfaction guarantee, accoutrements, they have to bring their own stuff. Oh, the satisfaction and guarantee is something that I provide. If couples do not love their ceremony, I refund them 100% of the money. No couple has taken me up on that, and I pride myself in that. But I literally say here, within 48 hours, you can phone me and say, we didn't like our ceremony, and I'll refund you 100%. And I think, it's just a display of confidence that I'm so committed to you loving your ceremony. I'll give you your money back if you don't. Media release, this is where couples agree ahead of time that I get to use their story or any photos or anything like that in my marketing materials. So that's how, for example, when couples sign off on this, and sometimes they send me an email and say, we assent to everything except the media release. And I say, great, that is noted. I will not release your story or anything else for purposes. Great. But honestly, that's happened like a handful of times, single digits in the hundreds and hundreds of ceremonies where I've offered this agreement. Marriage license, it's their responsibility to get it. I'm going to keep your stuff, your information private, etc. And you can see here how 50% booking retainer with the Canadian HST, 574, and boom, submit payment. So I make that really easy for them right there on the website. All they have to do to agree to that agreement there is check that box. There's a little check the box, I agree, and it's agreed to it. And if you're wondering whether that carries any weight, it does, because I've had twice in my life a credit card dispute, a couple that canceled their wedding and a guy that was coming after me for something, and I never paid. He tried to cancel the funds and stuff like that. And I said, no, part of the evidence you provide to Stripe or the bank in a dispute is they agreed that it was a non-refundable retainer. And so that held up and they were not able to take that back. So that is what that looks like. I send a contract and invoice through rock, paper, coin. That is a good service as well. And so, make it as easy as possible. Again, it's about reducing friction for you and making sure that an agreement is essentially you're getting on the same page when it comes to expectations. There are expectations that you have as an officiant in terms of homework. I know a lot of officiants, I think we talked about this before, actually put the homework requirements in the contract. I need you to give me your I need you to do the homework. I need to give you the questionnaire. We need to sit down for the workshop, that kind of thing. You can put that in your contract. Limited liability is another good idea to have in there where, basically the TLDR on that is you can't sue me for any more money than you already paid me. And so there's that. And there's, the whole force majeure, which we learned in COVID, which was, hey, if I have to cancel on you because of some crazy circumstance, then I don't need to refund you, that kind of thing. So you can make your contract as long and as involved as you want. In fact, we did a live here. If you go to my YouTube channel, go to the lives and you type in contract, GPT contract, it is on there. You can search for it. It's a previous live where we wrote a whole contract together on ChatGPT, and it was really good. Of course, none of this is legal advice. A little disclaimer here to keep myself out of any hot water. Always have a contract vetted by a lawyer to make sure that the language is there. I've had this vetted by a lawyer, and it's just important in your jurisdiction that things be worded properly, et cetera, et cetera. So good to see you. Marcus here from Thousand Oaks checking in. A 91 and 73-year-old wedding. They tore up their recessional dancing. Let's give them something to talk about. That's amazing. That is awesome. I want to talk about now a question, as promised, that I got this week from a member who said, hey, and they sent me the intake form. They're a customer of our website. And so the inquiry form looked very similar to what you just read, what you just saw. And that member said, how would you reply to this inquiry? And the inquiry was from a mother of the couple getting married. And the mother said, "Hi there. I'm just looking for an officiant for my, I think it was my daughter. They're not getting married in a church, although he is very Catholic, and they would like Catholic elements in the ceremony, and we're wondering if you would be able to do that." So I'm just going to let that land there for a minute for you. How would you answer? And there's different comfort levels, and that's not kind of what I'm getting at here. If you say, "I will not officiate a religious ceremony," then obviously that's how you would reply. "I'm sorry, all my ceremonies are non-religious. I do not include any religious elements in my ceremonies." Done. But if you find yourself on that kind of continuum of, "No, I'll do some religious stuff," then what is the appropriate response for somebody who asks if you will do Catholic elements in the wedding ceremony? I get these inquiries from time to time. Usually, you are not going to get a very religious person reaching out when you're just an officiant on the internet, because, of course, if they are very religious, they will likely have a clergy person who they know, like whether they attend a mosque or a synagogue or a church or whatever, they will know a clergy person who will marry them. But sometimes you get kind of the spiritual but not religious crowd, and they want some prayers and they want some blessings. And I've talked about that at length. But in this case, it's, "Oh no, he's Catholic, his family's Catholic, but they're just not getting married at a church in a church because she's not Catholic." But, so the priest wouldn't bless it and wouldn't allow their marriage to be on the consecrated ground of a Catholic church, but they want the Catholic elements. Let's see. I'm looking to see if anybody, I wanted to see if anybody commented in the chat on that. So what I advise this member, and the way that I respond to these, is I basically say I'm open to discussing with the couple, because it's their ceremony, discussing with the couple what religious elements they would like. And I am comfortable performing some religious elements, and this is where I distinguish between elements and rites. Elements such as prayers or specific passages or specific wording. So basically, you're emphasizing I'm comfortable saying religious things that one might find in a ceremony of that faith tradition, but I will not perform any sacred rituals or sacred rites that are reserved in that faith tradition to be done by clergy of that faith tradition, whether it is a priest or a rabbi or an imam, that kind of thing. And so that's the important distinction I make, is that, hey, elements where I speak certain words, I'm up for that. I don't feel like I'm breaking any ethics or violating any religious sensitivities. However, for example, in a Catholic ceremony, I know that if you were to administer Holy Eucharist to a Catholic family, that would not fly. That needs to be administered by a priest. And maybe it's just because I've been to seminary, but I'm very familiar with that rite, for example. So, a lot of couples will want something like Eucharist or communion, the Lord's Supper, however you want to say it in your Christian faith tradition, in their ceremony. And some denominations, anybody can do that. Like for me, I am a lay minister of a very progressive church here in the town where I live, and that is what allows me to officiate weddings. And so, we would discuss what is appropriate to the couple in the sense of, there's even, philosophies and theology around who can administer communion or Eucharist or that kind of thing. But I just know that in the Catholic faith, only a priest is qualified to administer that to professing Catholics as well. So that's an even extra step, and you wouldn't want to touch that at all. So that is just a a quick advice on that. If you get asked, do you administer X religious elements, I would say yes, elements that are word based, but I am not going to perform sacred rites or sacred rituals, things that are deemed sacred and only clergy can perform them by that faith tradition. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful for you. I know it's come in handy for me because sometimes that's a deal breaker. They'll say, oh no, we wanted something like that. But most couples, again, are not going to violate their own faith tradition, and they know that more than you do. So, for a Filipino wedding or something like that, I've done the coins and I've done the veil, and those things aren't only to be administered by clergy. I've had to learn them and say, hey, I'm going to be honest, this is the first time I've ever done something like this, but that's more cultural a lot of the time. And Cancer Mark could probably distinguish this really well, like in a Jewish ceremony. Obviously, I have facilitated the breaking of the glass or said a certain prayer or that kind of thing. But is there something that only a rabbi should specifically do in a Jewish wedding when it comes to certain rites or rituals? Perhaps, but I've never had a Jewish couple really want to push that anyway if they're a member of a synagogue and for some reason their rabbi wasn't able to do it. So that is that's how to navigate that line. Now, the rest of the time, barring any questions, and I'm looking in the chat here. If you have questions, please fire away. I am open to, as you have already. Thank you for asking if I have them sign an agreement, asking what the chem check looks like. I'm just seeing Paul is here. Good to see you from Trumbull, Connecticut. Barring any questions popping up in the chat here, I do want to talk to you now, share about the wedding report, because it's pretty fascinating what they have found after surveying like 18,000 couples or something. I'm not exactly sure how they get their data, but this is the email that I got from, and I've signed up to the wedding report. I think I have actually sent you this link before, and so I might as well do that again in the chat here. If you are interested, and I think Sabrina, you obviously took me up on that because you sent an email about this. So it's there in the chat if you want to sign up for the wedding report. Just as somebody in the industry, I find it very interesting what they put out there, and it helps you make just find out, keep your finger on the pulse of what vendors are doing, what couples are doing, trends, that kind of thing. And so here, what the wedding report is saying, and let me just pull this up so you can see it better. Costs moved in 2025 and buyer behavior set the stage for 2026. So this is the barbell effect. They talk about it because this is, they've sent several, I'd say the last couple of emails they've sent and reports they've sent have emphasized this trend happening where high level cost is moving up and lower level weddings are actually becoming more common and growing in frequency. And it's kind of like the middle that is being lost right now with economic forces that are happening. So people are going cheaper or people are going more expensive. And maybe that is kind of more middle class looking to save money. But of course, when the economy is doing well, usually the rich are getting richer. Don't get me started on political or economic commentary right now. It is what it is. This will help you as an officiant make decisions. So I want to show you a table that they sent that's really interesting. But here, attire and accessories are anchored spending. First of all, I reported this at the end of last year from the wedding report that on average, the spend is up from 31,400 some in 2024 to 32,825. So this is couples anticipated spending a 4.5% increase. So we're not seeing a shrinkage in the spending. Now, they did talk about how less people are getting married. So the pool of number of weddings is retreating, but of couples that are getting married, it's typically couples that have more money are the ones getting married, and they are spending a little bit more as well. So they feature here attire and accessories are up, food and beverage is a protected category, entertainment, and this is what I really want to emphasize for you. Experience still wins. I talked about this in some lives at the end of last year. as officiants and celebrants, we are right in the pocket of couples wanting an amazing experience for their guests. We fit into this category. Now, we don't fit into this category in kind of the common parlance of weddings. And I mean, you're on a mission with me. I've been on this mission since 2017. And if you're listening here, and if you're a member of Unboring Wedding, we are trying to continue to spread the ceremony revolution, basically, because we know how exciting and how fun a ceremony can be. It should be electrifying and it complements the rest of the day, right? So we know that, but experience still wins here in the sense that DJ and MC services increased 6.7%, demand ticking slightly upward. Live bands rose 6.6%. And what this signals, entertainment continues to sit on the premium end of the barbell. The premium end of that barbell, the higher end, couples will pay when the value is framed around energy, flow, and guest memory. Hey, celebrants, we are right in that pocket. Fellow officiant, that is something for us to jump on. And that's why I kind of got excited here a bit when I saw this, because even though what you're going to see in terms of what officiants charge is just staggeringly low, your marketing, your messaging, how you position yourself, and what you say about the value you provide is going to be key here. Photo and video, core stays, extras get questions. So that's interesting. Kind of upsells. Couples are like, I don't know if we need, you know, the hardcover folio or that kind of thing. Rentals and decor, editing accelerates. Rental and decor categories saw smaller cost increases and declining participation. Interesting. But here's a table that maybe you can see and maybe you can't. So they've got the 2024 to 2025 numbers, the rate of change in what every vendor here is charging. And so, you know, you're seeing big jumps in gifts for attendance, which is interesting. Gifts for parents, 12%, double digits increase. So this is the change here on the right column. Wedding photographers are charging 8% more-ish. But when you look at officiants here, this is what jumps out when you get this report. Officiant charges on average $265 in 2024, and in 2025, $267, a 0.7 increase. But I want to ask how many, you don't have to answer, how many of us are charging $267 for a wedding? I just showed you that I charge $999 for a wedding. I started working with Young, Hip, and Married back in 2014, and they were charging $800 in Vancouver and expanding into Toronto with me way back then. And, you know, part of that, I mean, they kept 50% and I kept 50%. And that's kind of typical of working for an officiant company. And I, you know, at a certain point, and I find myself saying this a lot. I've talked about this here before. Maybe I should just stop saying that and act like it's the first time I'm saying it. But it was that friction for me when people started calling the company and saying, we want Mark. We saw Mark at a wedding, or a planner would say, how do we book Mark? Because I saw Mark and he's amazing. And at a certain point I thought, well, why am I with a company when people are just picking up the phone and phoning directly and asking for me? I don't need a company to market for me or handle payment or that kind of thing. I can do all that. So out of the gate, when I started alone, I left the company. I just charged the same thing they did, $800 in Toronto back in 2017. And so, you know, if I were in Toronto now, I'd probably charge $2,000 or so. I live in a very small kind of seaside rural community near St. Andrews. So I charge $999, and here that is very comfortable. And most officiants around me do charge that $300-ish. So I know I am way more expensive than what people are typically charging in this area. So, you know, the question is, and the question that I got around this was, what the heck do we do? How do we get ahead of, if this is what couples are seeing and this is what couples are expecting to pay, how do we prepare them for a much higher fee? And my answer is a couple of different strategies that I have been doing. I'm glad Mark thinks $267 is funny. Hannah, thank you for this. $400 to $800 in New Zealand. Yep. And what we're in North America anyway, that $267, you got to remember that is lumped in with that is going to be like the wham bam wedding chapels, right? I mean, I just went to Vegas and there's so many of them, and it's just kind of in and out fees. And you know, we know that officiants are charging $200, $300, $400 on average. What happens when you are doing this full time? What happens when you are excellent? What happens when you only want to book 1 or 2 weddings per weekend and you know you are absolutely going to be obsessed over delivering the best experience for a couple? You don't have to nickel and dime them. You don't have to a la carte them. And what I mean by that is, well, it's $300 to book me. I know a lot of officiants do this. And then if you want your love story, it's another $150. If you want the rehearsal, it's another $150. If you want me to add another element, it's another $100. If you want me to wear a suit, it's another $100. If you want me to, and so, you know, that's the nickel and diming thing that honestly, I think that that's the middle. When you talk about the barbell effect, I think that's the middle that is just exhausting couples. They either want a cheap wedding, $267, bang, bang. I'm not saying there's no market for that, but the wedding report is also showing that the other end of the barbell is that premium experience that I am encouraging a lot of us to head toward, not necessarily at the expense of the lower experience. And like I said, we talked about this on our members only office hours on Zoom. If you want to do elopements or quick signings or that kind of thing, just make sure you're booking them, say, Monday to Thursday, or, you know, I'm doing a signing in a couple of weeks just nearby. We're just meeting and I'm signing, and I made sure that that's Saturday morning at 11. You know, just make sure you're steering clear of times where you'll book a really large wedding. But I want to show you a couple of ways that since I got started 2017, where I kind of launched Unboring Wedding after officiating a few years with Young, Hip, and Married, how did I stand up to that same expectation where a lot of my minister friends in Toronto worked for another company where they were only charged, where the company was charging like $400 or $500 and giving the officiant half of that. I mean, I was just like, how do you even put pants on and tie your shoes up in Toronto where it takes an hour to get anywhere when you're only taking home a couple $100? I mean, I had a family. My wife was a counselor and she was working evenings and weekends, and weddings were on weekends. And I thought, if I'm going to officiate, it's really got to be worth it. It's got to help me pay the bills. It's got to help me pay the rent and feed the family and that kind of thing. So a couple of ways that I did this to get ahead of it. And I'm seeing lots of chat now, including some funny comments like sign and go on the side of a dirt road in Mississippi. Maybe. Although, you know, if you stack your sign and goes on a Wednesday for $250 a pop, hey, maybe you've done something good. Anne says I charge $700. It's going to be different everywhere. Like I said, would I be charging $999 in Toronto when I started at $800 in 2017? There's no way. But out here, expectations can be a little bit different. That $999 is like a 20-minute radius from my house, by the way. I will not. That's where you're seeing the $11.99 for Fredericton and St. John. If I'm going to drive an hour, I live an hour away to the closest city. This is a guy who grew up in Ottawa, lived in Toronto, lived in Korea. Very urban, but hey, life changed in my 40s, and we came out here and we're living that oceanside life. It's going to be different where you are, so you can't kind of say, oh, this price is appropriate or not that price. It's going to be different where you are. But I want to show you how I got ahead of it. And one of the ways that I do that, that's why I had my website queued up here, is, and I'm going to do it again, Unboring Wedding. No, not Unboring Wedding Academy login. Oh, this is a great time to plug that, I guess. Unboringwedding.com. My website is pretty sprawling in the sense that I have, of course, the courses, and I want people to get the free guide and all that. But when you're a couple, the link that I provide is basically going to land couples here. You can see me officiating on Toronto Island for this amazing couple here. And of course, wedding ceremony officiating in Southern New Brunswick. Now, see pricing and what's included. That's the button I want them to click on right away. And when they do that, my package and pricing is the first place the couples land. And see how I list everything I include. So this is part of how I have kind of managed the visitor experience. When a couple lands here, I want them to get that premium feeling. And I've been doing this since 2017, but now we're seeing the wedding report say, hey, that's actually what we're seeing is couples want a more premium experience. And so, that's why I continue to be booked solid every summer and fall around here. Weather can be risky and miserable in the spring and in the winter, that kind of thing. Nobody wants to get all their loved ones here and get a hurricane or a snowstorm or anything. But booked solid through the summer and the fall. And what allows me to do that is when people land here, and so take this advice, the package and pricing isn't just my pricing. I say everything is included. Like that is very intentional. Couples land there and they say, wow, everything's included for your best ceremony ever. And I list everything, the consultation, the chem check, in-person 1-hour wedding workshop, peace of mind, knowing word for word what I'm going to say on the day, full shareable access to your working Google Docs ceremony script, unlimited script revisions, your total control over the final draft, complete rehearsal at the location of your choice near your wedding venue, arrival at your wedding 30 minutes early to plan cues. You would have no idea how many couples and vendors say to me, I've been at weddings and the officiant strolls in 2 minutes before in shorts, in cargo shorts. All fuel and travel to the rehearsal and wedding ceremony, legal handling of registration and marriage license. So that I'm stacking the value right there and giving the price. So, that is one way that I manage couple expectations. So when they land here, they know, oh, this is not a nickel and dime guy. And this is not just somebody who's saying, I don't know, what do you want? This is what I cost. I am giving you all this value. It's impossible to find an officiant who's doing more than me. And I expect compensation for that when it's that premium service. Now, another thing here, the second way, and I know we're getting close to the top of the hour, I like to keep this to an hour, is my reviews here, of course, speak for themselves. So that's another way is my reviews. Get your reviews in front of people on the website. I have my Wedding MBA speaker badge. I have some older reviews on Wedding Wire. I stopped taking reviews on there, but hey, I got the 5-star badge, and maybe some of you got Zola, Officiant of the Year. Put your badges up there. And I have the IAPWO. I'm a member there. But what I do pay for is this nice job little applet here. And basically, it's an app that feeds in my latest ceremony reviews. And it allows me to sort through people who are reviewing me for Academy, people who are reviewing me as a couple. And so you see here where the visitor to this website can see all the reviews from all my previous couples. And they're sorted by date and that kind of thing. So that impresses couples right off the bat when they are looking here. Now you can see how this bar changed, because another key thing that I want them, inquire now, the goal of every page is that they make it easy for them to inquire. This is my ceremony and story writing service. This is my custom love story writing service. So those are there as well. But the FAQs, and this really is to me the magic bullet, because as you know, I was asked, how do you address how much money you cost in relation to that really low average? Well, look what I've done here. Details for your best ceremony ever in my FAQs. I see a lot of laughing in your pictures. You tell a lot of jokes, Mark? And then I kind of address, no, I'm not a joker. I do not like to be, I'm not the kind of officiant who kind of strolls down the aisle and tries to make people laugh. And I do not like to be that big energy suck in the room. I like to go up there, smile, and engage the guests, really, really rooted and planted with a quiet body. That is my style. But the laughing, I say, comes from It's important that you know I don't tell jokes. I distinguish between humor and a joke. I love laughing, but the humor, I don't tell, there's no jokes, but the humor comes from your story. And it is true that most of the pictures you see are right from the story. I mean, this clearly, I'm a much younger man here. This was ceremony from 2015, probably, but this is from their story. And I want couples to see that you're going to be laughing a lot, but it's going to be from you. It's not from me being a really funny guy, a clown, a comedian, that kind of thing. But here's the most important thing. That's what I wanted to lead you to this page because do you see here how the rest of the questions, I don't have a lot. And the reason why I don't have a lot of FAQ here, and I would recommend do not answer a lot of questions on your FAQ page because you want to get the chem check. You want to talk with them, as we discussed earlier in this call. I want to have a conversation with them where I answer their questions, but these might be objections that prevent them from inquiring. So you want to have just enough answering of possible objections to push past the point where they might say, well, we don't know how much he charges. We don't know does he have a, we don't know. So let's find somebody who does. So I've just put enough questions here that answer objections. How far will you travel? What if you're sick on the day of the wedding? And that's where I talk about my travel fees are included. I talk about how I have officiants who can fill in for me if I'm sick, but it's never happened. It's literally never happened in all my years of officiating. What if our venue doesn't allow for a rehearsal? No problem. How does payment work? And I do want to say 50% booking retainer. But here's the one I want to focus on. It's the second one in the list. Are you actually aware that your fee is much higher than other officiants? I love this. I always have. I put this on right away when I got a website. Mark, are you aware? Because I remember getting asked, you're really expensive. Do you know that? Yeah, I know that. Yes, and here's why. In a nutshell, my fee allows me to be a full-time professional officiant exclusively, to not have to cram as many ceremonies as I can in a weekend and focus fully on my couple by writing their unique ceremony and crafting the fun, moving story of how they fell in love and arrived at their wedding day. So that's the first thing. You're saying, look at how much I'm going to pour out for you. And then when I started as a wedding officiant, I collected the usual 300-ish fee. That meant a few things. First, it meant that officiating would always be a side hustle. And this is when I was a minister. Even a wedding every weekend at that fee couldn't pay the bills. An officiant who charges $300 needs another job to make ends meet and can't concentrate fully on creating ceremonies for a living. Second, it meant the number of hours I could put into this creating a wedding ceremony was very limited. So with another day job, plus trying to book as many weddings as I could for a low fee, I had to stick to using a wedding script that felt canned and run of the mill. That brings us to my third point. I wanted my officiating side hustle to bring even a modest income supplement. If I wanted that, I had to officiate 2, 3, 4 weddings in a weekend. Sometimes that meant trying to squeeze 2 or 3 into a single day. And I have nightmare stories from that, by the way. And that was in addition to my real job. I started to feel like my clients were numbers and my weddings were cookie cut. Not anymore. I eat, sleep, and breathe weddings. I devote 100% focus on every wedding I do and make it the best experience possible for everyone. So that is how I have addressed personally and get ahead of couples saying, oh my gosh, you're so expensive, click away. First of all, I know that my ideal client will pay me that much. So I do not want the kind of client, the kind of couple who is only looking to pay $300 or $400. But I have leaned right into the elephant in the room, put it on the FAQ page. As I showed you, when you land on my website, you see I've stacked all the value right away when you charge that kind of fee. Just get everything listed out and keep your reviews right in their face, because couples who say, we could not imagine anyone else, this was the best, the ceremony was the best part of our day, all those things work together to justify your fee, I want to say. And I don't like saying that because you can charge whatever you want as far as the market will permit or will allow. That's kind of how free market works. But, you know, you are not looking for couples who are going to pay $267 anyway. But how do you explain to couples so that they will actually reach out and inquire? I can tell you that when couples land on my website and see what they just saw, they know right away, oh, this is the premium experience, right? And so, you know, that is the kind of couple you are looking for. And that's borne out by the information on the wedding report as well. All right, so that is the show for today. Any quick questions before we go? Going once, going twice? No? Hopefully that was really helpful. I enjoyed being here live with you today, of course, for our first 2026 weekly wedding prep. Hopefully that helped you prep, whether it was for an upcoming ceremony, brushing up on your website, diving more seriously into celebrancy or officiating as a business in 2026. That is what we are here for. And if you want more of the Unboring Wedding experience that members have, unboringweddingacademy.com is the course. unboringweddingacademy.com/pro is the business side of officiating. Completely different course, a sequel course. All the professional stuff that I talked about here with roadmaps, resources, etc. That's how you get certified on our website. And of course, if you want the software that makes creating the ceremony as easy as falling off a log with one click, it's officiant.ly, efficiently. And that is just changing our lives as officiant. Super easy to use. It frees up more time to create more ceremonies and be focused on excellent customer service for your couple rather than copying email templates and copying script templates and sitting down and writing the love story for 3 hours. You can focus on excellent customer service. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be here live with you. Absolutely love being here as well, Terry. Thank you for that. Thanks, Mitt. Thanks, Sabrina. Thanks to all of you for your questions, whether it was live or whether it was hitting me up ahead of time. I will be here next week. Thanks again, everyone. And until then, marry on. Have a good one.